The best-selling gaming mouse of all time. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us from Logitech, our product manager, Chris Pate. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
And Niall White, a mechanical engineer. Hi, Niall.
Hello.
Pleasure to see you both. Now, this is the anniversary month for the iconic G502 gaming mouse. Let's talk about the history here. Who wants to jump in first? Chris, you worked on this?
Both of us worked on it. It was an incredibly fun project, a little bit challenging. We were trying to do some things we'd already done before in very new ways. And it was a lot of back and forth trying to make sure that we could get everything that we wanted in it. But we knew we had something special from the moment we launched it, and the internet kind of blew up.
And this was quite a while ago now, more than a decade, I know, right?
Yeah, we launched it in 2014. We worked on it a little bit longer than that. It was kind of Logitech G's re-entry into the world of high-end gaming mice, and it was kind of a statement piece that we were back.
Niall, tell us about, from your perspective as a mechanical engineer, the problems that you were trying to solve here, how you were trying to design a better mouse, not a mouse trap.
Yeah, so I think the big change, and it was probably the first mouse where we took this approach, right? But we integrated, I would say, the design and engineering from the beginning. That there were, any feature that went in there had to be there for a reason and had to function well, not just be a cosmetic thing or look good or whatever, right? So, from day one, it was about trying to make sure that everything was high performance, that was gaming grade, that it wasn't, features that we just took across from standard office mice, right?
In the years since, gaming has gotten even more serious, right? Especially on the pro level. So tell me how you keep up with the demands here and the competition.
I think the important thing is to develop the product for the needs of the customer who's using it, right? Like Niall said, we want to make sure that every single feature has a purpose. And G502 is a great mouse for a lot of people, but it's not the right mouse for everyone. So we want to make sure that for people who want a mouse like G502, we do things that meet their needs, and we are unapologetic about the things that we put into it. But we also make products that are for other people as well. So it's about understanding the customer and making sure that we deliver the features and the functionality and the capability and the experience that they need.
All right. For people who are maybe watching this sitting in an office somewhere, what's the difference between a gaming mouse and the mouse that's on their desk?
I think there's a lot of performance specs that are significantly more challenging, right? So, one example is that for our office mice, they have to be able to survive for 100K worth of use on a desk, right? Whereas for a gaming mouse, it's 250K. Switches are another example, right? They have to last a lot longer.
Things like latency, the speed with which the mouse communicates to the host, things like like I said, durability, battery life is different. You have a very different need for battery life and charging battery, replacing battery with an office mouse than you do with a gaming mouse. So it's the comfort requirements are different, the weight requirements are different. Pretty much, we are an entirely separate division within the company because we're designing, completely different gear. It's kind of like, car analogies are very, easy to go to, and that people like them because they're easy. But, if you're designing pickup trucks, you don't use the same team that's designing, luxury sedans. It's a completely different concept.
It would seem to me a better analogy might be you guys are the sports car division versus the minivan folks.
I like pickup trucks, but yeah.
Terrific. So tell us about the evolution.
I think the important thing is making sure that we understand what people want to stay the same while we make the product better, right? When we launched G502 RGB, we changed a few things, the most notable of which was making the logo configurable in red, green, blue colors instead of just the standard, the blue one that we launched originally. When we launched the Hero version, It had a brand new sensor and was, there were multiple modifications made to it internally, but the big deal was that we made the sensor brand new. But in each of those, we kept the shape and the weight and the overall design the same. Then we launched the Lightspeed version, which was again the same shape, basically the same weight, which was, a pretty significant challenge when you're talking about taking a wired mouse, making it wireless. So you add all and we had pretty large batteries at the time. So you add all the weight of the battery, you have to pull out a bunch of weight to compensate for that, to offset the weight gain from the battery. So we were able to give people effectively the same product with the same performance, both wired and wireless, across 4 different generations. And then with the G502X, it was a new design, a clear differentiated design, but the touch points, the feel of it were very much the same. That one was designed to bring it into a little bit more modern aesthetic, but also to address some specific things that some of our customers were asking about, right? So we reduced the weight, we removed the weight tuning for people who didn't want that. We didn't stop selling the G502. We just added the G502X to the line. So again, like I was saying, you make the product for the customer that wants it. And if the customer likes the G502, you keep it. And if the customer wants a G502X, you make that on top of it. And then you've got, a more comprehensive line.
So there are greater challenges in a wireless gaming mouse because of the latency fears.
The latency fears are they're pervasive, but we've done a really good job with our Lightspeed technology. The RF team in Switzerland is fantastic. We've conclusively proven for a decade or more that there is no difference in functionality. And if we look at professional gaming, right? People who make their money by beating other people at video games. Back in 2014, when we first launched the G502, the idea of playing a professional game, match with a wireless mouse was actually like a punchline to a joke. The first Counter-Strike professional to win a tournament with a wireless mouse was in a major tournament. So the Boston Major was 2018, right? So that was Cloud9 with Automatic was using a G703. Fast forward to 2023, I think it was, the Blast Premier Finals in August of 2023. Every single player was using a wireless mouse. So in 9 years, we went from punchline of a joke to every single player has to have it, right? It's really, you don't get a better endorsement for a technology than people whose livelihoods depends on functionality and reliability. So I think it is a challenging technology to implement correctly, but the proof is in the pudding, as I say.
And I think this is where we've improved over time quite a lot, right? Where if you go back to the original G502, maybe a lot of the features were based on kind of feel, and we think this is the right solution. Whereas I think today we can measure any element of performance in the device that you want, right? So we know that this is going to be better before we release it into the wild, right?
So it sounds like the wireless versions are outselling wired these days.
That's hard to say.
Have to talk to the sales team, I guess, for that.
Yeah, the growth is certainly huge, and that seems to be where the majority of the interest and demand is. But the wired versions are still selling very well.
So tell me about working with gamers and the professional gamers to make these devices better.
When we were developing G502, we had a much more ad hoc process to integrate in gamers. We had, I think they were called the Alpha Initiative at the time, or maybe it was even predating that. But we had a cohort of gamers that we had under NDA, and they would come into our offices in California. I don't think you had any in Ireland.
No, probably not.
But they come into our offices in California and look at all of the kind of wild prototypes of ideas that we put together. both from an electrical standpoint and from a mechanical standpoint. And they, tell us, I like this, I don't like this, I like, we should make this thing work this way. And our commitment to developing with the input from gamers has been, I started working on design externally with gamers. Boy, G15 keyboard I did it, the G25 racing wheel I did like 25 years ago, 20 years ago. So now, in the Pro Series specifically, which is, not G502, but we work with esports professionals around the world, and we fly all over the place. Our designers, our engineers, we go into the practice rooms, we bring them into our facilities, and we look at, in depth, the same kinds of things, but in a much more, practice and scientific way, so that we can ensure that, we're getting the feedback that we need, and then that their opinions and so forth are actually, I'm blabbering on when Niall actually runs that. So why don't you?
Yeah, so I think, we work with an esport research lab in Limerick in Ireland who have now been around for about 9 years and have extensive experience in measuring performance. So we do studies, it can be anything from 5 minutes to 5 weeks, depending on what you're trying to find out and what gamers you want to talk to, right? And it's all about the detail.
Studies, Niall?
So anything, if you take weight as an example, right? We wanted to look at what is the right weight for a mouse, and it's everybody talks about getting lighter and lighter and lighter, but there comes a point where lighter isn't necessarily a benefit anymore. So in that case, we had gamers play with mice of different weight for about 6 weeks, and you track their performance both in game, and we developed our own specific tests to kind of measure performance that mimic activities in game. So over that period of 6 weeks, you're looking at what changes, how their performance moves as you go through, and you can make tweaks and changes and see what gives you the best result, right?
What about shape, the design? I guess everybody's probably, you got a lot of opinions out there. What's best? How do you deal with all of the different nuances? There are big people and small people playing games.
It's always some level of compromise because, as you say, you've got big hands and small hands, and obviously they mean different requirements for different people. But it's one thing. It's definitely an advantage we have. Our mice are hand carved from day one, right? The design models are made from a block of foam, literally removing material by hand until you get to the right place. I think what a lot of people don't understand is kind of the level of fidelity that's involved, and you're talking in some cases about moving a fraction of a millimeter to give a slightly better feel, right? And it is kind of that order of magnitude. So it's very subtle changes have a very big impact, right?
So when you think about the future, next year's mouse or later this year, and you've already put so much work into design, into the perfection of the design, how do you think about making it better?
It's a big question. It always goes back to the customer and the experience, and how are people using the devices to enjoy their games. And we can't just imagine a new feature and throw it out into the world and have it succeed. It has to be in the service of making the gaming experience better. So we're constantly looking at new ways to do things. We will try new, input modalities, over and over and over again. And has the market changed? Has the experience of gaming changed in such a way that this would actually now be a good thing, whereas previously it was not? Or has technology evolved to the point where you have the bandwidth on the RF link in order to be able to deliver all the data you need to have a good experience doing a new thing? But it's a constant process of there's iteration, there's innovation, there's just wild out of the box thinking. We were actually talking about one of our colleagues, Andreas, who was not able to be here for this conversation. Just the massive number of ideas that he's had over the years, some of which he won't even show us. And it's just a constant process of thinking really hard about how to make things better.
And I think it's changed over the years as well, right? I mean, originally, if you go back to early gaming mice, it was more technical challenges. Can you make the tracking sensor work? Can you make wireless work? A lot of those things have become a given now. So now it's more player focused and trying to figure out the exact details. So, we in the lab, we have a lot of biomechanics expertise, both internally in Logitech and in the research lab, where we're putting sensors on people's arms so we can measure muscle activity and see if it's a little bit wider, is it better? If it's longer, can you move faster? All that kind of stuff, right? So it's very detailed now, and yeah, it's become a lot more player centered, I guess, than technology centered, right?
Real science. What about being game centered? I mean, do games to some extent dictate what's going on here with the design?
Absolutely. I mean, so, back in 1996, 1997, people were asking me, so what do we do? What's after the mouse, right? You're playing Doom with the mouse, Chris. What are you gonna, or actually playing Quake at the time? What's next after the mouse? And I said, it's the mouse, right? Because that's how the game is designed. So ultimately, we make the device to work within the context of the way that people are using it, the way that the developers are developing against it. So we work with game developers to to understand what they're doing next and so forth. But really, we're not trying to invent. We're not trying to invent. As difficult way to phrase this, but we're not trying to invent things out of whole cloth, right? We're trying to work within the context of how people want to experience the game.
And people can tweak the settings, etc., depending on what they're playing, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the original premise of the G502 was the most tunable mouse we could make, right? You can change the weight, you can change the distribution of the weight, you can change the functionality of the sensor, you can change the sensitivity, you can change the way that it functions based on the mouse pad that you're using, right? Your scroll wheel can be, free spinning or not, right? And we continue to have new ways to adjust the devices that we manufacture, G502, the mice, the keyboards, the headsets, whatever. So it's flexibility and making sure that the device is able to fit to the needs of the customer is paramount.
And I guess we can't understate or overstate how important the mouse is in the gaming world today. I mean, that's the tennis player's racket, I suppose, right?
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, there are certain. I mean, like in racing games, it's the racing wheel, of course, and in certain games, it's the controller for the console. But in PC gaming, absolutely, mouse is the that is your hand inside the game.
Well, congratulations to both of you on the work that you're doing and the team there, the whole team there at Logitech. Chris and Niall, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.